Hello, everyone. Our topic is about alcohol consumption among college students.
I'm Carl Villares.
I'm Giselle Franco.
I'm Alexis Lizarraga.
And I'm Holly Pedraza.
So our purpose is to determine the patterns between the co-use of e-cigarettes and alcohol amongst college students. The relationships between those two are unclear, but we are to discover if there is a clear relationship between the risky alcohol and or nicotine use and mental illness in order to prevent and intervene for college students.
So here's some background. The study was created to test why there's a popular use of e-cigarettes among college students and what group displays risky alcohol use patterns, and if it affects mental health or mental illness. Some objectives. So the purpose of our study is to educate others on the dangers of e-cigarettes and alcohol use among college students. And some objectives are the following: demographics of mental health. We're going to learn about alcohol use, e-cigarette use, knowledge and perceptions, combustible or e-cigarette alcohol co-use, and data analytical plan. So next we're going to talk about the research design and methods. So methods. The participants of the study attend Northeastern U.S. University and were asked to participate in a survey sent via email about e-cigarettes and alcohol use. Mental health was self-reported. The following diagnoses were based on depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, PTSD, anxiety disorder, personality disorder, as well as substance abuse disorders. There were numerous assessments on the use of e-cigarettes, combustible cigarettes, and other tobacco products, and they were assessed via a self-reported frequency along a 30-day period. Alcohol consumption was assessed via self-reported alcohol beverages consumed during a typical drinking episode or day, and participants also reported co-use of alcohol and e-cigarettes.
So the study design used was an online survey questionnaire, which included 46 questions in a 15-minute survey. Some of the questions included in this questionnaire was the demographics of the participants, a combustible and smokeless tobacco use history, psychiatric and substance use disorder diagnosis, general health, alcohol use, combustible tobacco use, and alcohol and nicotine co-use. And for the setting and participants, the setting was at Northeastern U.S. University. The participants included undergraduate students, and they were invited to participate anonymously via email. And majority of these participants were moderate drinkers, ages 18 to 21, and Caucasian, as you will see in Table 1 later in the presentation.
So here's analysis. So the statistics summarized the characteristics of the sample. So for alcohol use comparisons, an Omnius Pearson of Independence test assessed whether there were differences for each variable by alcohol group. So if there was a significant difference detected within the alcohol group, a follow-up was conducted to make comparisons based on alcohol status. So for example, non-drinkers versus alcohol consumers, and binge drinking status was also assessed compared to moderate versus binge drinkers. These set of comparisons were selected to enable an examination of both associations between e-cigarettes and alcohol consumption. Analysis continued. The mental health analysis examined e-cigarette use among those with psychiatric and substance abuse disorders to those with the same conditions. So there was a potential moderator of the link between current e-cigarette use and mental health, any psychiatric or substance abuse conditions, and generalized linear models.
When it came to data collection for this research journal, how they got it was relatively simple. The facilitators gave out an online survey, which was sent prior via an email that discussed e-cigarettes, nicotine, and alcohol through the months of March and October 2016, with no penalties when it came if they chose to decline it, as their participation was only voluntary. anonymous, and confidential, with the responses only be seen by research staff. To show that this was in good faith and to prove it wasn't a false email, they gave out contact information from University Psychological Service, study supervisors, and lastly, RRB staff. The study was approved by university's Institutional Review Board. For the participation, respondents were extended into a raffle to win $100 Amazon dot, Amazon.com gift cards as a sentence for them to join. When discussing alcohol, they gave a scale for them that fell under the categories of non-drinkers, moderate drinkers, and binge drinkers according to the scale of drinks consumed on one night, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 8, 9 to 10, and 11 and more. Looking at this table, you can see the comparison of behaviors when you put together smoking and e-cigarettes, cigarette use with drinking alcohol, this being drinkers only. The next table shows the comparison between e-cigarettes, e-c, and combustible tobacco used by alcohol groups, no alcohol versus alcohol, moderate versus binge drinkers. When it came to results, there was a surprising split for the data, as one third of the participants reported consuming alcohol with an average of 1 to 2 drinks, 33.6%, another one third consuming 2 to 4, 34.1% per episode, and lastly, one third, which was the case of binge drinking of 5 to 6, 20.1%, and 7 or more, 12.1 in one night. When it came to facilities and barriers, the issues that came to alcohol was that college students face is due to social circles and how easy it is to get in this day and age. The peer pressure students face when it came to alcohol and how social norms were made. The barriers college students face is simply addiction and the environmental around them.
Regarding the discussions, it was found that there is a pattern between the quantity of alcohol consumption and the prevalence of e-cigarette experience. There was a greater percentage of drinkers and binge drinkers that have tried e-cigarettes, and there was also a higher proportion of binge drinkers that reported smoking combustible cigarettes while drinking. It is also found that these motivations are that college students find that e-cigarettes may represent an alternative to accessing tobacco during episodes to drink, especially in areas where smoking is prohibited. Mental health conditions does independently predict current e-cigarette use and alcohol consumption as well. Smoking policies can also impact the rate of alcohol use disorders, as with the increasing focus on regulatory approaches to e-cigarettes, there is a consequence that must be monitored with alcohol or nicotine use. So for the conclusions, it is concluded that e-cigarettes and alcohol use appear to go hand in hand for college students. Alcohol use patterns and mental health conditions each appear to have independent contributions to risk for trying e-cigarettes. College students with mental health conditions who consume alcohol are susceptible to e-cigarette use, especially in the absence of combustible tobacco. And it is also concluded that college students have different motivations for these habits than adults. There are a few limitations in this study, one of them being that the data came from a relatively small sample, given that the response rate was only 13%, which was pretty small regarding the population that participated. The results also may have been biased to those with the e-cigarette interest and e-cigarette curiosity wanted to participate and respond to a survey, and that was just a possible cause of what may have resulted in any type of bias. Another limitation is self-reported mental health and substance use disorder diagnosis, in addition to the data being limited and lacking assessment of alcohol use frequency.
So why is this relationship between drinking and e-cigarette use important? As you can see that drinking does increase the chance of individuals to engage in e-cigarette use as well. And this can lead to unhealthy habits within these college students. And if we increase the awareness of the negative effects of drinking and using e-cigarettes, we can possibly help this population in ending that bad habit and hopefully creating healthier lives and environments. And thank you for listening.